Hello, and thanks for coming along to And We Have an Office Dog, the digital agency podcast where we talk to agency owner-directors and learn more about what makes them tick. From the things that make them similar to the things they'd rather have known sooner, where they've had success and where they've learned some hard lessons. All will be revealed with your host, Chris Simmons, the Agency Accelerator, and he'll be talking to a different awesome agency person in each episode, asking them 4 questions and seeing where the conversation takes us over the next 25 minutes. Okay, so let us begin. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, voiceover guy. And on the podcast today, we've got Tom from SEO Travel. Please tell me you're there, Tom.
I'm here for now, Chris. Yeah. Let's see if the heat allows us.
For those of you listening, this has been a bit of a laborious start because whilst we're recording, it is the hottest day ever in the whole world, and there is a lot of thermal throttling going on MacBooks. So we bared with. So hopefully we'll get there. We'll get there, Tom. Perseverance is a big part of an agency owner's trait, isn't it?
Absolutely. Let's give it a go.
So Tom, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a bit about SEO Travel. How long have you been guys going? What do? You never know. There could be a potential customer listening.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. We are a specialist travel marketing agency. So yeah, we specialize in SEO initially, as the clever name that I came up with when we started suggests. Since we've grown, we've been going for 12 years and we've kind of broadened into a slightly broader marketing agency. We've brought in things like email marketing, web design and dev, paid social, PR, things like that. We focus on the SME market, so love working with small and medium-sized businesses. And yeah, that growth has kind of come from people basically asking us if we do more stuff when we did a good job doing SEO. So it's happened relatively organically and naturally. But yeah, we like what we do.
So SEO Travel, but not only SEO. That makes sense. I can get behind that. Is it only travel though?
It is only travel. Yeah. We've had a few kind of little side projects that we've done along the way, particularly during the pandemic. Obviously, travel wasn't a particularly attractive place to be during the pandemic. So we threw a few other things up and to kind of give us a bit of stability through that phase. But we're still probably 90% travel in terms of the client base that we've got.
And 12 years is a long time to be running an agency and still have the smile that you've got there, Tom. So what do you think has been one of the biggest successes that you've had since you've been running the agency?
Yeah, the smile's still there. The hair's gone. The war wounds exist. Biggest success. Listen, survival through the pandemic was a big one. But I think the impact that the pandemic had on us and me and the agency is the biggest success for me. We did a big pivot and change to the business model coming out of COVID, where we decided to give all the profit that we make to educational charities. So we've been doing that for 2 years now. We've given 75 grand away over the first 2 years, which we're super proud of. Wow. Given we're coming out of a very tricky period for travel, and then we've set ourselves a £1 million target for the first 10 years that we do it. So 8 years left on that timeline. So yeah, kind of everything else that we've done's kind of come downstream of that change. And yeah, like I say, super proud of the team and kind of how that's unfolded.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a really nice thing to be doing, and it kind of not distracts, but stops you from worrying about the past issues that the sector that you've been sort of focused on has had. Did you? I'm obviously during the pandemic, everyone had struggles and issues from a work point of view, but you literally focused on an area that couldn't work. Most businesses kind of understood that it was semi-temporary and things like that, and kind of pursued the plans that they were focused on, things like that. But what was it that you kind of did that maybe kept clients on during the pandemic that would have otherwise gone, I'm off?
Yeah, we we're left with maybe 20% of the client base over the course of, we're super flexible with how we work. So we're always just on 30-day terms with people. So that flexibility is always kind of paid well for us in the past, and kind of built trust and in what we do. It was a bit of a challenge when people have got that flexibility. I think we would have done it anyway, to be honest, even if people were tied in, because people were on the knees. As I said, we work with small businesses. We've got very personal relationships with the people that we work with. So trying to just be a support for those people through that period was very important, and we did a lot of kind of sort of free support off the back of that to try and help people. There was all sorts going on in travel just underneath the surface of actually people not being able to travel, like lots of political movements that was not favoured to the industry at all. So just trying to be there for them and build some brand, and that's definitely helped us. Now as we've grown over the last couple of years and come out of it, like I said, we did some things that were outside of travel to kind of keep the wheels turning in that period. The clients that stayed, there was a bit of a boom in the staycation market, so the ones that we had actually did really well from the following year. And then like I say, the few of those clients that just kept us going outside of travel were really important in that period.
Nice. And forgetting the dramas of the pandemic, what was it that kind of got you in that travel niche in the first place?
Yeah, it was very accidental. So I wanted to be a writer originally, and I worked in PR in London for a year or so. Kind of didn't like it in London. It was during the financial crisis.
You're really good at
I've
picking
I've had a few crises along the way. We moved. So me and my now wife Claire, we moved back up north, and I decided I wanted to pursue the writing dream at that stage. And all the writing jobs that I was going for were asking about SEO, and I didn't have a clue what SEO was. And I thought I'd better go and find out what this SEO business is all about. So I went and worked for an SEO agency, kind of got to grips with link building and the technical side of things. Obviously, I had the writing side of it as well that brought that into the fold. And I started a travel blog, basically just writing about my travels alongside that. And the idea was originally that was a portfolio for my writing, that when I went back to get a writing job, I'd be able to say, oh, here's a body of work that you've got. But that morphed into more like an SEO testing ground for what I was learning along the way. And that picked up steam, got momentum. One day I just kind of turned around and realized that I'd got a travel site ranking really well. I had a good case study. I had some really good links. That was one of the things that agencies back then were struggling with immensely. And I could write. So yeah, it seemed like more fun than doing SEO for garden irrigation services and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, as a niche, at least from a writing point of view, there's a lot more. It's nice to write about aspirational enjoyment and entertainment based stuff than logistics and all sorts of like products that aren't that fun.
Absolutely.
I remember we used to have a client. I hope they're not listening at the minute, but they did pavements, and it was a real struggle to write articles for them, because after the 10 reasons why you should have X type of pavement type content was dried up, the 11 reasons to have this kind of pavement type content dried up quite a lot quicker as well after that.
Yeah.
So at least with travel, things change and trends change and things like that. So it's nice. There's plenty going on, and also people want to get involved in it.
Absolutely.
Part of our nature.
Yeah, like you say, you can keep going down the rabbit hole, whether you're talking about countries, regions, cities, things to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a never-ending kind of keyword research job there that you can go down a hole of.
Exactly. So if you could go back in time 12 years, speak to the younger, probably full head of hair version of Tom, just as you're setting up the agency, what advice would you give yourself?
I'd probably zone in on the people side of things. I think I never had a big plan when I went and did it. It was very much, I was at this age, like I said, the idea just kind of hit me around the face as being a bit too obvious to, not to pursue. So I did it freelance for a little while, and then it did quite well. And then it kind of reached a point where I thought, I can't keep doing what I'm doing on my own because there's too much work to be done. So let's hire some people. But for a long time, I had that freelancer mindset of, I'll just kind of bring a person in and dish a few jobs out to them and carry on that way. I think being able to trust people, give them clear guidelines on what to do and what needs doing, and then letting them go and run with it is, I've discovered over the years, super important. And if you can get good people, the right people who align with your values and, your mission and your purpose and things, then I think that's how you scale a good business. And it took me a long time to kind of get my claws out of, I was doing quite well actually, getting the claws out of things, and then the COVID hit and it just reversed everything to zone back in. So we actually, one of the big changes we made alongside the 100% initiative through COVID was we changed to like being a self-managed organization. So we stripped the hierarchy out of what we do, and basically passed over that responsibility and that accountability to everyone at an individual level, which was
awesome.
a releasing
that's
thing
really
for
awesome.
people. Yeah, but it was very much a tool to sort of force me to let go, so that I could always revert back to that and say, hey, it's not my job to go and interfere there. That's that person's job. I'll let them go and do what they want to do and how they want to do it.
Yeah, and it's so getting the claws out, as you said, that's hard because it's, you've built something, it's yours and you love it and it's your baby kind of thing. But I think you're right that it is the right thing to do. If you want to build a business that stands the test of time, the leader needs to lead, not do. And you I'm not saying you don't do any of the work, because it's sometimes nice to do a bit of work here and there, but you show people how to behave. You show people how the values that you all share are exhibited. You live the company, and then you see that other people will show more accountability and deliver better work and be happier doing so, because they reap the personal, professional, and financial rewards that all come from it, which is just it. It's easy enough for me to say. It's very hard for people to do. I struggled with it a lot as well, and I think that it's really hard when it's really easy to lead when the champagne is there. It's really hard to lead when the punches in the face come.
Yeah, absolutely. It's listen, I don't want to paint a picture of utopia. It's like it is hard. It is hard work. It is. It does take a lot of time, and we're still very much learning lessons along the way. But I've seen enough over the last couple of years of individual growth in people who have joined the team who are just doing incredible things that, if someone was there, if a manager was there just handing them tasks day to day and saying, do this, do that, there's no way they'd be doing the things that they're doing. And encouraging everyone to be a leader. Basically, it's giving everyone the scope to feel empowered and kind of really take hold of whatever their role is, and kind of and craft it and do it in the best way possible, and not feel like they're stuck in the same old way of doing things. They have ownership over it, and they're the expert in what they do. And if they can see a better way to being able to, to explore that and test it and see if it is a better way. And if it is, great, we adopt it. If it's not, revert back and kind of keep your eye out for other opportunities along the way.
And that kind of trust in the team is often reciprocated as well, which then feels nice. It feels nicer to run a business in that sense. So is there anything that that during the current life of the business that you kind of did that you went, oh no, I won't ever do that again, or a mistake that kind of was a bit of a hard lesson, but it's actually allowed you to get to where you are today? No, you're perfect.
We've done it all right. No, I think the short-term thinking is probably like my main challenge, like my main thing along the way, that, like I said, it just kind of happened step by step. And I never really stood back and said, hey, what are we trying to achieve here? What are we trying to do? And again, COVID prompted that for me to, I remember when I came up with the idea for the 100% thing, was out for a run on the moor, just running along thinking, how can we do, what do I want from this? Like, this has been a real slog for the last 6 months, trying to keep our heads above water. What are we doing it for? And I'd never really thought that way. It'd just been like, oh, this is what agencies do, and get another client and get another client and hire another person. And it wasn't until the kind of that pandemic kind of hit, forced the step back, that I realized I hadn't thought about this long-term view. It was always just what's the next step. And there's I think it's Bill Gates's quote about what you can achieve in 1 year versus what you can achieve in 10, and people get bogged down in the 1 year and never really think about the 10. And I think at that point I sat down and thought about the 10 and thought, hey, we can do some cool stuff here. It'll be tricky along the way, but in 10 years when we look back, it'll be far better than if we just keep doing this small thinking.
I think part of the education that people have, as they're in most cultures, it is kind of the short term education. There's always something coming up. There's always something next. There's always something that whether it's seasons, whether it's something that there isn't a long view. And we would have never as a species gotten anywhere if we didn't have the ability to have a long-term view. Traveling on dangerous ships across dangerous oceans, kind of knowing where you might well be in 6 months' time, it makes it a little bit easier to have a rough day at sea when it's 1 day out of 300 that you've got to get to a certain place. And having a long horizon or a long vision or a long view, it makes it a little bit easier to do little course corrections. It doesn't feel like so much of a knock, does it?
Yeah, and that's the key, I think, is it's not being locked into it. It's kind of having the direction, knowing where you're going, having goals that are associated to that, but not being too tied into them. That, like you say, you can, if we're going over this, we're going forward, we're going this way, but if we need a slight tip to the right or a slight tip to the left because we've learned things along the way, then that's super important. You need to do that and change it up. So it has, like I say, I've seen the impact it's had on the team, and part of my role now, like you say, rather than being involved in the day to day, is to paint the picture for people, is to give them that view as to what we're aiming for, both at an organizational level, but also at the kind of individuals level and what it means for them.
That's awesome. So conversely, other than mistakes, what's something that you did like really early doors that's still in the business, still in like a big core part of how the business operates, that you kind of did, and it was either an innate thing, an unplanned thing, but it's actually really become a big part of the business now?
The travel specialism is definitely one, which was kind of by accident. Like I say, I didn't do some big market analysis plan and see which one I should go for. I think the sort of personal touch, I would say, is still something that, again, most agencies are probably a reflection of the people who own it and lead it. And I have always wanted to know the people that I'm working with. I'm not corporate. I don't like that approach. Yep. It doesn't get my juices flowing. And I think there's a risk as you grow that you start falling into corporate habits. And I definitely felt that, like, even just down to like how I interacted on LinkedIn and things like that. It's like, I've got to sort of be a professional. And I kind of clicked myself out of that and was like, this isn't who we are. This isn't what it's about. And that's something that I definitely try to instill in the team, is when we're talking to people, they're just human beings. Like, they're just someone else who's having similar problems, similar challenges to you. And you should always treat them that way. They're not just a client. They're a person. And that relates to the focus that we had on SMEs as well. Cause we obviously would niche down to travel, but then after, we worked for a while with anyone who was in travel, and we worked with some big enterprise level companies, Jet2 just down the road in Leeds, and we did some work with them. And all my experiences at that level were not a lot of fun. Like, bureaucracy, red tape got in the way. The ideas that we had, the kind of fast moving side of things, just all got nipped in the bud, and we were just left with annoyances and going around in circles trying to tick boxes for people. So I think that's something we've really rounded back in on, that was a strength at the start, that trying to make sure that as we grow and the team grows, that's still at the heart of how everyone else interacts, which isn't an easy job. Like, people come with a lot of habits from other places where they've had that's like, this is work, this is how it's drilled into you to behave when you're at work. So it's an ongoing process.
It's but the good thing is, if you know who you are as a business, you know what you do, and you know why you do it, then how you do it is not as hard to work out, because you can have creativity, but people know what good looks like.
Yeah.
And if they know what good looks like, then they can kind of do it essentially in their own way, with their own approach, but within the bounds of this is who we are and what we do. And then it kind of means that when you get a lead come in because you've done really good marketing, but they are not going to be a fit, it's very easy to tell whether they're not going to be a fit.
Yeah.
Relatively quickly.
100%. Yeah, no, absolutely. We know, yeah, exactly that. You've hit the nail on the head. We know when we're speaking to people if they're going to be the right kind of client, and when they aren't the right kind of client, we tell them, and it becomes pretty apparent on all fronts. And we don't want to work with people if we're not the best choice for them. It's when we're having a conversation with people and we can see they really care about their business, like they're into sort of that journey of moving things along, and it's not just a marketing person who will probably be at a different place next year because they'll just be bouncing around the career ladder, and they're ready to throw you under the bus at any opportunity and then claim all the results for themselves. It's most of the people that we work with are either owner led, or they have a kind of senior leadership person involved who has been there for a long time and is likely to continue to be there for a long time, and that relationship grows and builds together with us.
And that also lends itself to better hiring and people management process as well, in the same way as finding the right clients, doesn't it?
100%. Yeah. The same things as with clients is when we're hiring and people, you're interviewing people, and you can tell 5 minutes into a conversation if this is going to be the right kind of person, and if they're not, and that's fine. It's okay. Everyone's different, and I think it's the temptation and the risk is always that you just grab what's available at that moment in time. And that's it's quite a big switch that we've made recently. We've tried to put more emphasis on, I guess, a longer run in the recruitment process. So we're not just hiring when we urgently need people. It's more like, how can we engage and build a community of people who know us and know what we do. And then when the fit is there and the requirement is there in the team, you can open it as a conversation rather than a kind of like, here's a job description. Do you tick the boxes? Let's get you in.
Yeah, lovely. So someone is about to start up travel SEO, not SEO travel. They're going to compete, Tom. But you're a really nice guy, so they've come to you and they've asked for some advice. What one piece of advice would you give them on their beginning of their agency journey?
I would talk about purpose. I think the change that we've seen since we introduced the 100% mission and goals and how we go about that has just completely changed the game for us on all fronts. It's from the we're talking about the people that we hire in the team. Again, when we're looking for people to join the team, they are engaged with that. As soon as they start talking about that, you can see that, they're into the same kind of things we are. When we talk to clients, we can see that they're interested in those kind of things and have a similar goal and are on board with it. And I think it's something that's just generally in the world and the job market and kind of what people are looking for from work. Like, it's just become much, much more important, and just kind of paying people a salary and expecting them to turn up just doesn't really cut the mustard. If you want to excel and you want to do great things, I think you've got to have something that they can get behind, and everyone can, kind of push to go and achieve something. I've just reading at the moment Seth Godin's new book called Song of Significance, and I would recommend it to anyone. He talks about this in great detail, and it's he paints a great picture of how it can work, and I'm totally on board with all that stuff.
I mean, that's technically two pieces of advice, but I agree that they're linked. They're linked enough for you to skirt that one through. Thanks very much for coming along to the podcast, Tom. It's been great talking to you and learning all about how you've built what you've built, and it's great to see A, the longevity, but B, that you've not gone 12 years and lost your care that started the whole thing off. You've not been jaded too much. So that should be something that, as an agency owner, taking resilience is really key. and if you're starting a business or you're early into your agency journey, when you get those knocks, those first knocks or a few knocks in a row, don't think it's forever. There's always an out if you know where you're going.
Absolutely, yeah. The resilience thing is big. I think probably people have said it a lot on, in your previous interviews, and that is super important. If you want to start out, you've got to be ready for the bumps along the way. But yeah, if you stick with it, it's a good ride.
Yeah, well, it's a good roller coaster. Champagne on the way up, punches in the face on the way down.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming on, Tom.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me. Cheers, Chris.
And in our next episode, we'll be speaking with another agency leader to hear their story and the lessons they've learned along the way. And thanks very much for listening.